Sometimes an idea doesn't just change what we do, it changes who we become. Sometimes those ideas come in unexpected moments in our lives and ask us to rethink what we know, what we believe, and what's possible for us or for others. My guest today is someone who has spent a lifetime following and pursuing her own powerful ideas and helping us to see the world differently than the way we first began. Dr. Nell Irvin Painter is one of the nation's most respected historians, a former Princeton professor, and the author of several groundbreaking books, including The History of White People, Sojourner Truth, A Life a Symbol, and her scholarship has reshaped the way we understand race, identity, and American history. But what makes her really compelling to me is what she's done with her own life and how, as a distinguished academic, she followed her own desires, her own ideas, and went toward creativity and expression. She became an artist, earning an MFA and a BFA, and starting a whole new chapter of her own life at what some might call a big age. Her life invites us to consider a beautiful question. What do we do when we decide to follow our own curiosity, even if that's going to take us on a very different path? In this conversation, we talk about the power of ideas and exploring our own desires. You will notice this conversation goes all over the place. One, because I really respect Dr. Painter. I love her. I love her mind and how it works and how she's very forthcoming with pursuing her own curiosity. And with that, I believe that she's invited us to do the same. I hope you enjoy this interview. Let's get it going. So, welcome to the call, Dr. Painter. I'm really excited to have you. I think I said to you last week when we chatted on the phone briefly that I've been regarding you as my personal mentor recently, and it's
Yeah,
been
sure.
really lovely. Here in my podcast, what we talk about is what we do with an idea. And I really love the fact that I would describe you as a very self-contained person, a very self-contained woman, and you do what you want to do. And you seem to have a really strong impression of what would make you happy. And you
Hmm,
go toward that. And
hmm.
I love that. So I hope that that's accurate.
Well, I don't think so. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere.
Okay.
I'm not going toward anything.
That's fair.
Yeah, I just am.
You're being.
Yeah.
You're being the person you want to be. Well, it's my understanding that at age 64, after having completed or been in pursuit of a wonderful career, you are a well-renowned historian, an expert, a subject matter expert in a number of areas. And you decided at age 64 to go to art school.
Yeah,
That's wonderful and exciting. And you already had a PhD
I did.
and you decided to go to undergrad at Rutgers.
I did.
And then you went on to go to RISD, to Rhode
Yeah,
Island School of Design. All of this is just really fascinating to me, and I'm really happy about it. So I would love to chat with you about that.
sure.
So, Dr. Painter, I'm curious, when when the idea first came to you about becoming an artist, not someone that just admires art, but when you thought about that idea of that could be you and getting trained in that way, how did you know that that was an idea that was worth following for you at that point in your life?
Well, when you say worth following, it makes it sound like there was, some kind of weighing or trade-off or figuring out value.
Hmm.
But that's not what it was. It was that it was something I wanted to do and I could.
Beautiful. Has there ever been a time in your life when you questioned whether it was okay for you to pursue something that you just wanted to do?
Well, kind of. My first answer is no.
Okay.
I've always done what I wanted to do, and I was lucky enough to have parents who could help me in that way. I never had to justify myself to them, and I never had to justify myself to my husband either. And there was a long space between my parents and my husband of growing up. But there did come a time in the 80s when I was at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I was a full professor, but I was so tired. I mean, I didn't know I was tired. I don't think I was depressed, but I was just not right. And a friend of mine, I was missing, not just in the way that you and I have had trouble looking up because there's so much going on. It was just that I couldn't. I was unable. And a dear friend of mine drugged me off to a therapist, and the therapist said, "You're exhausted, and you just need to go tell people no." So that was hard. So people had asked me to do various things, and I had said I would. And so I would have to call them up and say, I said I was going to do this, but I just can't. And they said, "Oh, can you suggest another Black woman?" Or, "Oh, okay." So it was like no big deal. So I learned two things from there. It's okay to say you can't when you thought you could.
Mm.
And also only to accept commitments when I'm the only person who can answer, when I'm the only person who can give that lecture, show up at this place, say something or other, do something or other. And so I'm talking to you about the olden days in the 20th century, and I'm sure it's not like that anymore.
I don't know. In terms of who can be Dr. Painter, only Dr. Painter can be Dr.
No, no. I mean, we're talking the 80s. We're talking the 20th century. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm what Peter Schjeldahl called the actuarial zone, meaning I could die anytime. I don't think I'm going to die anytime, but my friends are dying off. And, I never know if somebody doesn't answer an email, if they're still alive. So I'm older than most people. And I grew up in the segregation era. And I was born in the 40s. I was born in 1942. And anybody who was born after 1960, already they grew up in a different world. And if the people who came of age in the 21st century, they have no idea of what it was like in the 20th century, which really was segregation era.
I think that's fair, and I can appreciate what you're saying. It's interesting because your writing, your memoirs, really remind me that as a Black community, we're not only one thing. And I
Yeah.
think you do a really good job of addressing that because of the way you were raised and where you were raised
Mm-hmm.
gave you a unique perspective. You're born in 1942, but you go from Texas to California. My aunt was born in 1942.
Uh-huh.
You were born in a hospital. My aunt was born with a midwife in
Uh-huh.
South Carolina,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
ended up going to Cincinnati.
Uh-huh.
My aunt ends up going to college, but it wasn't presumed that she would go to college.
Yeah.
Where you, it was absolutely presumed you were going to go to college. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of what do you want to study?
Yeah.
And so it was really, I loved reading your work because it reminded me not to put people in a box and that we have a variety of experiences.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you saying now you still were impacted by this problems of the 20th century by
Oh,
segregation. And I'm born in 61, so I'm right
okay.
on that edge, and
Yeah.
I get a
Yeah.
taste of both.
Right, you did.
I get a taste of both. My dad was in the military. My mom would trace my foot so that she would know what size my shoe was, so that we
Oh,
wouldn't have to be humiliated with, no, you
yeah.
may not try on the shoe.
Oh,
And it's kind of a core memory
oh, yeah.
for me. And I just think it's really interesting. I love the fact that I find what you said about realizing that you were exhausted and needing someone else to point that out to you
Yeah.
is really helpful, because when I tell you I have felt that,
Yeah.
and I walked away from my job at age 59 because I simply couldn't do it anymore.
And
I
yeah.
was just exhausted, and I didn't really even have words for it.
Ah,
And it
yeah.
was COVID, it was the George Floyd murder,
Yes, yes.
and I
Just
felt
give
like
me
it all came down at me at the same time, and I was in bereavement. My father died at the same
oh,
time. So it
oh,
was just a lot. I love that you have shared that you needed some outside eyes to help you see,
yeah.
and that there is this part of you that if you're not careful, you can kind of overextend yourself and say yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. In the beginning, in the introduction to I Just Keep Talking, I talk about being in Seattle on my book tour for Olden Art School and women asking me what I do for healing. And I said, I don't do anything for healing. I'm not broken. But I can be exhausted and
Mhm.
pissed off and not knowing what to do and in need of a break. But I'm too old for the whole healing wellness stuff. I'm just too old for that.
But what you do is you listen to your own heart and you follow the things that you're curious about.
I don't feel that as healing. I
But
feel that as doing what I want to do.
right,
I,
but you are also very prolific. You produce a lot.
I do. Yeah.
And so, can you talk about how you manage listening to that call in a way that isn't exhausting, but perhaps energizing, or at least has a stabilization factor to it?
It can be exhausting. And you get exhausted easier when you're old. So, I do have periods of exhaustion. But then again, I think, what am I going to do? I am going to rest. I have to rest. My husband says, when are you going to retire? And I think I'm going to retire after I finish Sojourner Truth. Now, I retired from Princeton
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. So I've been retired for a long time. But in terms of just doing stuff, so I've nearly always been writing a book. And I think Sojourner Truth will be my last book.
Did you
Yeah,
want it to be, or someone, or
yeah. I'm thinking, I don't want to wake up and think I should be writing my book.
okay, okay.
But then again, if somebody offered me money to write another memoir of the importance of being elsewhere in my life, in my youth especially. I tell Glenn, yes, if I were to sign another book contract, it would be one of those books where people would talk about as a long awaited book. you know, People write on books for 20 years. People write on books. It took me 10 years to write the history of white people. I'm not going to do one of those again.
Mm-hmm.
But it would not be a book with a looming deadline.
All right.
Yeah.
Because you want to do it because you want to do it, as opposed to
Well,
someone's.
every book I have done, it's been a book I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I always start with a question, that I'm curious about. So it's not that I did books because somebody else wanted me to do them.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like I want to just go sit on the couch and knit and not feel like I should be writing Sojourner Truth, that sort of.
Okay. I
I
I
should
can
be writing
understand
this
that.
book review. And you can't see it from where you are, but over to my left is another table with my writing laptop on it, in which there's a book review. It's a really interesting book set in North Carolina. It goes from Reconstruction to Black Lives Matter. It's really interesting, but it's hard because it's got a very complicated organization. So it's taken some time. And it feels a little bit like a burden.
Okay.
So, but there would probably be other things like that. You might call me up and say, you want me to write a book for you. And I would say, oh my God, I really have to do this.
I wish that were true. That's great. But I just think I find you to be an interesting person because you have so many interesting things you're interested in. And I imagine that you have this circle of women that you're surrounded by who are doing the same thing.
I have a very dear friend, Thaddeus Davis,
Mm-hmm.
who is a great literary critic who lives in Nashville, and we're in daily touch through text, through email, through phone. But I don't have a big circle of close friends. I have we live in a great big co-op, and we have our half dozen neighbors who share our interest in politics. And so we were out together on Saturday, standing in front of our building, holding signs, 100, 125 of us. So we have that circle. Well, I don't see them so much anymore since we no longer live in Newark, my Newark arts community. We have two very good friends still who we spend time with from time to time. Victor Dobson and Cicely Cottingham. But I don't have a big circle of friends. You mentioned this earlier, that I'm different from a lot of people, a lot of other Black people, even in my own generation. And generation makes a big difference. But even in my own generation, I grew up on the left. I'm not a Greek. I don't like Martha's Vineyard, so there are
Okay.
all these things that are important to my peers that I don't share.
Okay. Well, that seems
Um,
fair.
Friendship is very important for me, and I do have one handful of friends whom I've had since the 60s and 70s, and one friend from high school.
Well, I want to talk to you about your RISD experience because
Sure.
one, I was thrilled that you went to RISD, and I just kind of assumed, oh, I want to go to graduate school. I'm going to go to RISD. And so for you to cover and share that you applied to other schools and didn't get in was
Right.
really interesting
Oh, yeah.
because I just assumed RISD was great and the only place you wanted to go. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But I noticed in your writing, you said that when you said, I'm thinking of doing this and went to an academic advisor, someone to discuss it with, they said, you don't need to get an MFA.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that you realize I'm doing it because I want to. And
That's right.
there's information I want. And
Yeah.
so I love for you to talk about doing what you want to do because that is what you have consistently done.
And it's hard for us women. It's not just Black women, it's women, but especially Black women, because so many of us have a sense of attachment to Black people, a sense of mission, of giving back, of feeling hurt when other Black people, whom we don't know personally, are hurt or suffer. And I think that's actually one of the best things about Blackness is solidarity. I wish more Americans could feel solidarity. And when I hear or read pundits or commentators say, well, Americans are individualists, it's not true for us.
It isn't.
It isn't true for us. But also part of that is really tiresome in that so much of Black conversation is about why aren't we doing more? Why don't young Black people do this or know this? What do we have to do to fix it? And this is about people who could be in another state or even another country. And then also the sort of policing of who's Black enough.
Mm,
That just drives me up the wall.
it's true. And I think you're addressing that both and part of being part of the Black community. This feeling of collectivism, this feeling of feeling responsible for something other than yourself or your
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
It can be beautiful,
It
and
is beautiful. It
and
is
it's also
beautiful. Yeah,
it can be too much and or
yeah,
exhausting.
yeah. I separate them. I really do. Because I've been in so many situations where I relish how solidarity sounds and acts and is. And I can be in fact, if I'm in a situation of policing, I just don't go there anymore.
Mm, that's fair. That's fair. But I think as a historian and as an artist, there is this aspect of we can rely on you to keep a record of what's really going on right now. And this might, I don't know, might seem like a leap from what we
Mhm.
were talking about, but you know, it's like there's this whole discussion about news, fake news, what's real, what isn't real.
Mhm.
And you're a historian, so you know how important it is to keep a record. And as an artist, as a creative person, there is a role to be played. And you're
Well,
doing that.
my art is not keeping a record. My art is fiction. My art is play. My art is fun.
But that's a decision because you know you talk about in your book how
Yeah,
oftentimes Black people are put into some kind of a box where they're expected to
by
play that
other
role.
Black people.
Yes, true. True. I just love it. And you know, when you talk about solidarity and collectivism, some of it comes from your background as a leftist, and some of it comes from being a member of the Black community and being raised in various spiritual communities. I really do love that. And, you know, when I said that you had kind of helped me as a
Yeah.
mentor,
Oh, wonderful.
one of the things you helped me with was helping me to understand when I have an expectation of people, where it came from, that I didn't just like pull this whole cloth out of my own mind, but
Mm,
it came from something.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
sometimes
sure.
other communities won't show up for you. And you can't take that personally.
Yeah, there are a lot of Black people who won't show up for you too. I
This
hate
is
to say
true.
it. Yeah.
This is
And some
true.
of the most hurtful moments are when you get let down or backstabbed by another Black woman. That really hurts.
It does really hurt. Or the feminist community sometimes can not show up the way you expect them to or want them to. And that can be really hurtful.
Mm,
And oftentimes we just end up saying, I'm going to judge this by what I see and what actually is happening rather than this expectation that I've just made up
yeah, yeah.
myself. And that's okay. In Olden Art School, you literally, it was like one of the last couple of paragraphs, finally mentioned Henry O. Tanner. I was like, she's not going to mention Henry? She's not going to say anything about Henry? I can't believe it. Where's Henry? Where's Henry? And then you came through. I was like, yay.
Oh man.
You talked about
I'm
your
glad I
dad.
showed up.
You talked about your dad, and it made me so happy.
Oh man. Why should Henry O. Tanner show up in my book?
Because you're talking about art and Black people and having a contribution. And in art school, how oftentimes they didn't know very much about Black artists or
Right.
had expectations of what it means to be a Black artist or what Black art is.
Yeah.
And
But that wasn't the job of my book. I was
No, no,
talking
no.
about
But you
being
mentioned
old and
so many
artistic.
people because I'm reading it like it was like I'm going through your yearbook and I'm seeing, oh, who do
Okay,
I
wait,
know? I
just
know
wait a
them.
minute. If you want to see the some relationship between African American history and African American art history, look at Creating Black Americans.
I just found out about that like last
Yeah,
week when I was preparing,
that
and you get that off market. It's like on eBay nowadays.
I know, I know. You know why it can't be redone? Because the permissions of the art cost $32,000.
Really?
Thank God I was at a rich institution which picked up that because as an author, I was liable to secure permissions.
Oh,
I am no
wow.
longer at Princeton. I no longer have $32,000 or whatever it would cost now to get the permissions for a second edition. So that's why the book is hard to find and expensive.
That's Thank you so much for sharing that with me because I'm reading it and I'm looking for the names that I know and I'm familiar with, and it just makes me feel happy. Because in terms of art history for
Yeah.
Black art, I had to train myself. I went to a small liberal arts school, but they only mentioned Henry O. Tanner.
Ah,
That was the one reference. And
yeah.
so for me, I taught myself when I got out
Yeah.
of undergrad. And,
Yeah.
Samela Lewis is such an
Oh,
important
yeah,
part of
definitely.
learning
Yeah.
and all of the people. So I learned a
You know
lot.
who's writing wonderful books in Black art history is Richard Powell. He has
Okay.
a new book, and the cover is that painting, How You Like Me Now of
Mm,
Jesse Jackson. So Richard Powell he's done several books in Black art history. I recommend him very highly. They're very readable. And I think that would do what you mistakenly wanted my book to do.
well, it just, you sprinkle out all these things, and so then I realize I'm coming to have an
Yeah,
expectation because you
yeah.
sprinkle things out. So you went to school in France, and then you decided to learn German?
Well, I knew when I was an undergraduate that I would go to graduate school, and I knew that I would need two languages. So even before I went to France, I was studying French and I was studying German because that was the language of knowledge in the 20th century. So I started with a little bit of German when we went to Germany, and I'm pretty good with languages. My husband is better for reading, but he has this atrocious Kansas accent in whatever foreign language he speaks in, and I don't have a pronounced foreign American accent. So I can speak much more currently than he, but he can read much more than I. But, I like learning languages. It turned out that Portuguese was my second language for my PhD.
Oh,
And also after France, I studied Italian. So, I have a tiny foothold, old tiny foothold in Italian and in Portuguese as well.
I love that. So you are truly a polyglot. How fun.
Well, certainly with ambitions that way.
Now, when you say retire, you're not going to stop making art, though, right?
No, retire from writing books.
Okay. Good, good,
And
good.
yeah, also I love to read, so I will not feel guilty when I'm reading. So for instance, I haven't finished Tayari Jones's Kin, which is a terrific book.
I
Oh,
loved it
la la
so
la.
much. I gave it to
Isn't that
my
a great book?
aunt.
I haven't finished it because, my other duties keep calling me. So when I retire, I'll be able to sit there and read a book straight through.
It doesn't it feel like you have a friend with you? It's so sweet. It's such a sweet book. I love
Yeah.
it.
I actually know her.
Do you?
I do. We met at McDowell many years ago,
Okay.
before American Marriage, actually. And she's just as wonderful a person as you would think from the book. But
She feels like family.
Yeah, well, kid. But I find myself not wanting to read books in which the characters are not interesting,
Mm.
or the language is not rewarding, or the plot doesn't move. And she's got all three.
Yes, she does. And I love how she plays with language and using African American
Mhm.
vernacular, and it just
Mhm.
feels so familiar.
Yeah, for you, not for me.
Well, for me, because it's like talking to my cousins.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
was really nice. You don't have a big family, right?
I don't have a big family, and what I had, most of them are dead. I have long had a cousin, my mother's brother, for anthropologists, that's not an accident.
Mhm.
My mother's family, there were five, and she was the youngest. And my cousin's father was the next youngest. And Magruder is the name, Charles Magruder. And Charlie got his PhD the same year I did, but in Germany in astrophysics.
You guys, your brains,
And
you
he's
need to
still
be studied.
alive. Yay, he's still alive.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that is part of it. I know that you said that sometimes when you say you're old, people will say, don't say you're old. And I'm like, but I am. But
Yeah,
when people want to say, no, you're not, when they want to fight you on it, you
yeah.
have an energy to yourself. And that's, I think, what people are responding to, not to numbers or chronological age.
Yeah. Also, I'm not really very wrinkled.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you got that. You say your mom's name's Donna? That's how you
Dona. Yeah.
Donna, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah. You want to look that good when you get that old.
Right.
So I love
Now,
that.
there's a book I actually would enjoy doing, like another a book. It's like the second edition of I Hope I Look That Good When I'm That Old, in which I get to talk to my mother's memoir.
That would be fun. You should do
Yeah, it
that.
would be. It would be. But I'm not going to do it without a contract. So somebody is going to have to come to me and wave money in front of me.
Sounds good to me. All right. So would you love for people to know who are toying with pursuing an idea? What advice would you have for them if there's something that they feel drawn to and they
Mhm.
wonder if it's too late for them to pop up and claim a new identity?
Yeah. People ask me that often about going to art school, and they're sort of waffling. And I say, there's an easy way to try it out, and that's to go to your local community college
Okay.
and try class or classes in the areas that appeal to you. And you will find out if you still like it. You will find out if you're willing to put time and money into it. That's the easy way to check it out. Now, I have also said that, as you know, I started Rutgers in my mid 60s. If I were a person asking me at my age, I'm 83 and a half, I would say to me, you're too old. Really, I would. No, I wouldn't say it like that.
No, no. I mean, tell me
Yeah,
more. Because
because
you love that you did it.
I love that I did it, but that was 20 years ago. And so when I did the drawing center, for instance,
Hmm.
before I actually went to Rutgers in RISD, I was living in Newark. I would get up every morning, take the light rail to Newark Penn Station, take New Jersey Transit, take the subway, stand up for 8 hours, and then do the whole thing backwards until the next day. I could not physically do that now.
Okay, that's fair.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
And also,
But it wouldn't be
just
fun now.
because it would be too hard, it would be too
Mhm.
exhausting.
Right, right, right.
That's the thing. So I've always said you need to be realistic about the money side. The
Hmm.
old lefty in me, the materialist in me says, how much is this going to cost? And
Hmm.
it's going to cost a lot to
At
go to art.
school.
Yeah. But there are lots of other ways of doing it. And it depends on what kind of thing you want to be. If you want to start in your 60s and become David Bradford, that's not realistic.
Okay. Okay.
But if you want to satisfy yourself, and there's probably a local gallery that will show your stuff.
Okay. Well, I
So,
think it's a
yeah,
worthy question to say, well, what
yeah,
makes
it
you an
is.
artist?
Yes,
You went to
somebody who makes
school,
art.
someone who makes art. Is it because someone buys the art? Is it because a gallery will let you put the art up? Is it because you got a residency? What makes you an artist today, Dr. Pena?
Somebody who makes art.
You're an art
And what
maker.
is art? Art is what an artist makes.
But you went through so many phases. Tell me, what was it like for you? Well, tell the audience, what was it like for you to face a crit and explain what a crit is?
Like a crit is where your teachers and your fellow students gather around. You have put your art up on the wall and they talk about it. And ideally, they should be looking at your art and asking you your questions, and perhaps at best, giving you some ideas of how to go to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ideal crit. And it was pretty good at Rutgers in that way. Graduate school, and I won't say just RISD because I've talked to other people, and this is a systemic issue, that in graduate school, so many professors figure you've already learned what you need to know, and they just show up and talk off the top of their heads. They're not paying attention to your work, what you want to do, where your work fits, what are the formal issues that you need to resolve. That would be real teaching. And
Mm-hmm.
art school teaching is really lazy.
Okay, that's fair. So, as a woman, as a professor who came out of fine institutions, it's fair to say that there were times as a student you were offended by the level of
Let's say I was disappointed. I
disappointed.
wasn't the only one either.
Well, also you're paying a lot of money for this
You're paying a lot
experience.
of money. Yeah.
And what you're hoping to get out of it is help me be better so I can be the very
Yeah.
best I can be when this
Yeah.
experience is over.
Yeah. And especially, I think it's not so much the case now because there are more professors who are either Black or alert, and more students who are Black and who are bringing questions, issues of representativeness, a figuration, and so forth. But when I graduated in 2011, which feels like a million years ago now. And the teachers and the fellow students were not used to dealing with Black subject matter. And I wasn't doing identity art. I was just painting people, mostly myself, actually, who were of interest to me. So it was, formal issues that they could not grapple with. And I started doing self-portraits because I wanted to know how to paint dark skin, which is not the same as painting light skin on account
Mhm.
of how reflective dark skin is and sort of the layers of color. And I had to turn to a friend, a photographer, Bill Gaskins, who helped me find the colors to deal with dark skin. So there were just some formal issues that my professors were not prepared to help me with.
But then they also didn't do the work to get there either. And so you
That's
had to teach yourself.
right.
And there's so many gradations. You can go from Carrie Marshall to Amy Sherald and everything in between. But
Mhm.
you have to at least be curious. It's a question worth answering.
Yeah, and the market has done us a favor in that way. So Kerry James Marshall was painting when I was in Rutgers, and I knew of his work, but he was not well known. Now he is really well known,
Absolutely.
and so anybody will know that name and be able to conjure up images. Amy Sherald was not working that I knew at the time,
Hmm.
but Black artists are just so much better known now than when I was in school. And that makes a huge difference. The market has been our friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like you talk about the 80s, but when I first got introduced to Kerry James Marshall, he was doing like the little trinity with Kennedy and Martin
Oh,
Luther
yes, yes,
King. And
yes,
it
yes.
was just so cool. And I
Yeah.
loved it because it's like, oh, he's been in my grandmother's house. That's
Yes,
amazing.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's really cool. I wanted to ask you, as a historian, it's very important for you to do the work, to do the research, and then to be able to cite your authority and give attribution to the people that have influenced you when you
Mhm,
come to have a conclusion.
mhm.
And as an artist, you went through a developmental stage. Yeah, so let's talk about
Yeah,
that. What was
yeah.
that like for you?
Well, I can tell you when it really hit me, I had a class on digital tools for painters, which really introduced me to using the internet in art, you know. And so as a historian, I was very hesitant to take other people's images, just grab them and use them without attribution. But I learned to do that.
It's so cool, right? It's a new way of thinking. And also, you already were doing it as a historian because you get all this information from other people and then you say, therefore, I think this.
Mhm.
And now you
But
get to do that
but
as
I
an artist.
also credit the sources. And in art, I don't. I do have one drawing that's actually in a group show right now,
Hmm.
in which I have used an artist's image. And I call the title of it is Dreaming with the Artist That the Book Was Done, after Jens, and I forget his last name, but his name is in the title of the piece.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, you say you're working on being a 21st century artist, having come from the 20th century.
Yeah.
But, you also were around when hip hop was sampling everybody's work and having to deal with taking someone else's music and
Yeah.
making something anew. And so
Mm.
now you're just, Nell Painter, hip hop artist.
Oh, well, I'll have to quote you on that.
I would love that. I would love that. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Painter. This
You're
was
very
a
welcome.
fun conversation. I hope that you will keep me in your heart. I love that you've entered in mine.
Of
And,
course.
and
And we have a long trail of emails.
yes, yes. But what I love about it is you were part of the family. And when I sent out a call, you didn't know me from a hole in the wall. You said, absolutely.
It was the way you phrased the invitation. I couldn't say no.
Well, thank you so much. I am so grateful that you have the ability to listen to your own heart, to follow your own desires, and to put work out into the world for us to enjoy. It's been such a blessing. And you even took all your memorabilia and ephemera and donated it. Is it North Carolina or is it Duke?
It's a Duke. Yeah.
I love that.
30 years worth of letters back and forth with my best friend, Nellie McKay.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so good. Now that you're reading Ken, who are you writing a letter to?
I just sent a text to Thaddeus Davis.
Text disappeared, Dr. Peener, and you know this.
I know. And I don't write her. The last people I wrote physical letters to were Tayari. She is
Hmm.
a very good correspondent until she isn't anymore. And my niece, who I'm putting through school, and
Okay.
she's in Denmark now. So I am not writing to her, but I sort of schooled her in writing physical letters for a while. But mostly my correspondence is by email now. And you're encouraging me to go through another period of printing them out. I have printed out some, and they're in Duke. Maybe when I finish this book, when I'm going to throw away all my clothes, and maybe I'll also print out my emails.
Wait a second. Why are you throwing away your clothes? What are you talking
I
about?
have too many. I
Okay,
have
well,
too
we all
many.
have too many.
Too much stuff. Yeah.
We all do. When
Yeah.
I was a kid, you had your church shoes, your school shoes. That was it. Now I have 5 million pairs of shoes.
There you go. Maybe you need to do that too.
I'm working on it, Dr. Painter. I'm working on it. Okay. Oh, and I want to tell you, I was reading your book and you went after Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm worried. Is she going to get to Henry? Henry survived. So,
Thorough.
yes.
Yeah.
So I was really grateful.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. It's just
You're
been
so welcome.
such a pleasure. I love your brain. I love your mind. And I'm thankful, thankful, thankful that you decided to share it with the world. Thank you. You didn't say it. I was hoping that you were going to refer to Sojourner Truth. She didn't say that, but it's okay.
I should say the title of the new book.
Yes, please do.
The new book is Sojourner Truth Was a New Yorker, and She Didn't Say That. That's the title.
I love that because there's so many interviews where you just slide that in. You know, she didn't say that. So that's great. And when can we expect this book out in the world?
27.
2027 is coming, and I will be happy to have you back or push the book
Okay.
out again and push your work out again. I'm so excited. And I'm going to be on the East Coast in the fall because I do a Discovering Black Walden retreat, and I will reach out to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You be well. Okay. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my conversation with Dr. Nell Irvin Painter. There was a moment in the conversation that I just keep coming back to when she talked about reaching a point in her life where she was exhausted and realizing that she had to start saying no, even to things that she wanted to say yes to. And what struck me most about that is that she gave herself permission to step back, but the world didn't fall apart. When she did it, she said, I have no more to give. And it created space, not just for herself, but for others. And I think so many of us are carrying around our commitments, our expectations, the identities that we have said yes to in a different season of our life. And that requires us at some point to stop and ask, does this still fit? So maybe this is a moment where you need a permission slip at the same one that Dr. Painter gave to herself. She had to learn to listen, to pause, to reassess, and to choose differently, to recall that choosing differently was available to her. And if you are feeling the nudge, that sense that something is shifting or wanting to shift in your life, then I want you to consider taking just one tiny first step. You can grab my Do What You Crave audio assessment and use it as a starting point to gain clarity about what your next chapter could look like. It's a simple but powerful tool to help you tune in to what you actually want, and maybe for the first time in a long time, do that. Discover that and answer the call to your own heart. You'll find the link in the show notes. And as always, thank you for being here. It's your time to shine, and you are ready for the next step. See you next time.